Hey, this is Jack from Alpha Charts with a stocks to watch for super follows. Today is May 21st, 2023. Before we get started, this video is for informational purposes only. These are not recommendations to buy, sell, or hold any stock or security. I may hold positions in some of the equities mentioned. Know your time frame and risk tolerance. All right, so this is a free view of my stocks to watch for super follows. Basically, I'm crazy busy, so I don't have that much time to make two videos this week. So this will be just a super follow one, but I'm going to share it with everybody. So I hope you enjoy a little bit about my super follow group. I figured while I got your attention on this, we do a special stocks to watch video, which is, an expanded list, which I'll doing today. We do our focus list video later today. I'll do a focus list video, which narrows down to one or two ETFs and usually about 5 or 6 names that look ready to go for this week. That's a short video. It's like a 5-minute video. It's really just a quick hit. Again, I'm trying to find my where my followers are, right? Some people have time for an hour-long video, some people don't. So a 5-minute video of just what you need to know. Remember, my super follow group is made for people who work full-time, right? It's not made for the guy that's watching the market all the time in general, because it's I'm doing the work for you, and time is valuable, and this is what I'm trying to save y'all is that part. Also, idea generation, of course, right, for everybody. Anyway, so we have the stocks to watch video on Sunday. We have the focus list video that comes out also on Sunday, ready for the market. I do a Sunday market note that gives my views and commentary on the market. I do a midweek video that comes out Tuesday night about what's happened in the first couple of days and what we can expect, or not expect, but things I'm watching going forward. I share a market note on Thursday. So again, all week I'm engaging with everybody on what I'm seeing and what we're doing and what the market's doing. Again, it's so, for the most part, part of it is so you don't have to, right? If you don't want to, that's a big part of it, right? So you can very quickly catch up to what's going on without watching every tick. Again, a lot of it is made for the person who is working full time and has limited time to spend. I share scans every single night with my super follows. Again, it's idea generation. I offer market commentary just about every day on what's going on in the market. Usually, a couple tweets just to them of things that are interesting or catching my eye that's going on. And I add different things. Like last week, I did an extra video just of one of my scans. I went through each chart of the scan just in the middle of the week, just because I felt like it would add value to the super follow group. So I add so much more. This is for $10 a month. If you're interested, you sign up through Twitter at AlphaCharts365 is my handle, and again, it's $10 a month. You can cancel anytime. It's no big deal. But I do feel like I give a lot of value for that small price. And if you're interested, again, it's a super follow group or whatever they're calling that group now, on Twitter, at AlphaCharts365. And I appreciate it, for your support. Thank you. And all my super follows that are currently supporting, I thank you as well. I enjoy doing this for y'all. Real fast, earnings. Okay, that was my spiel about the super follows. Earnings. Know your earnings dates coming into this week. It is there's a lot of earnings, a lot of retail earnings. Elf here. We're going to talk about Elf in a little bit, and some others. So know your dates, right? That's you got to know when if you're buying something, when the earnings date is. But let's get into some charts. All right, so let's do a quick little market review. And here is spiders. Right, perfect. So here's the spiders and SPY, and you can see that price has now broken out from this kind of range, right? And I think that's a big positive. Now, it hasn't cleared it completely. 418 to 420 was what I'm looking at, and it lines up nicely with this top trend line right here, which we did reverse off of. So going into this week, I think I would not be shocked if we get more of a pullback early on. Where it holds is extremely important because then it'll determine if this is just a normal pullback because things got ahead of itself, or if this is some sort of false breakout. And the differences are huge between the two of them, right? If this is a normal pullback and we get support in this purplish area, and things start to turn back up again on the index level, everything's fine. And I think we got to be erring on the bullish side for sure. If we slice through this purple area and start slicing through some of these moving averages early in the week, I think that this would be considered a false breakout, and we have to get a lot more defensive real quick. See, the nice thing about having an area right here is that we can manage risk easy against it, right? Sometimes it's hard to manage risk when there isn't those clear levels. But when we get them, and we don't always get them, but when we get them, it's going to give us a lot of information. I think Monday, Tuesday will help us figure out which way it goes. Okay, so that's the cues. I'm sorry, that's the SPY, and looking at the cues, very, very similar type of situation. We had the breakout again. Things did get a little ahead of itself, so a pullback into this purplish area would be absolutely normal price action. I'm cool. I'm really cool with that. Again, breaking moving averages. You see, the 23-day hasn't been broken in on a closing basis since mid-April, right? End of April. So it's been a month. And so that tells you what trend, and really even before that, it's been a while, right? Kind of uptrend kind of started back here, right? So so that's all really interesting. Again, is it a normal pullback or is it going to slice through? How it pulls back it tells you a lot, right? How it pulls back tells you a lot. Now, something else I'm noticing is more and more stocks are setting up. So that's an intangible. That's from screening and looking at a lot of charts. But I can tell you there's more setups than I've seen in a while. That tells me that the market is at least healing. I would love to see things follow through. But we'll take it one day at a time, how it comes. All right, so let's get into the names. And just so you know, again, I really try to find the freshest, newest merchandise for my super follows. So I'm looking for things that are, that maybe aren't talked about as much on FinTwit. And again, you may see some of it on FinTwit, but less likely to be talked about on FinTwit. I'm looking for things that are really looking like they have some power behind them. And again, if you want Apple and Microsoft and Google, which are doing really, really good, I'm probably not going to go over those on my super follow group. I'm going to go over other names that are maybe up and comers, right? So I'm looking for things that we could be in maybe a little bit longer term. Again, if you're working full time, you really can't be in and out of the market like a day trader because that does not fit the lifestyle of somebody who works full time. I understand that. I know I work full time outside of my house. I get it. So that's what I'm looking for. Okay. So we always start with a couple of ETFs I think are leading. And I think the robotics ETF, Robo, is a good one to start with. So robotics and automation. And you can see how this one, kind of topped out the $72-ish area. And I was making a base, and then I was trying to emerge from the base. Looks really good. Robotics and automation are the future. I always like to go into what is actually in the ETF if we're going to buy an ETF. And you can see that these are the holdings, many of which are non-US based, right? And you still get NVIDIA in there, and you're going to get ServiceNow and Omnicell and some US based names. But look, a bunch of names, Japanese names, and I don't know where SS is. But names from international names, so things that you may not be exposed to, on the regular U.S. stock exchange, you can get exposure to by buying the ETF. And by the way, this is basically an equal weighted ETF, right? Close enough, really. So it's almost equal weighted, and again, you're going to get exposure to all these names. And looking here, by the way, I'm using Deep View for my charting today. If you're interested in Deep View, go to deepview.com and you'll find out all about it. Sometimes I'll go ahead, actually, well, it doesn't show it here, but on the individual stocks it will for the stats, but I'm not going to use that today. Anyway, robotics. This is a good looking ETF. Again, for something like this, I would consider the ETF over individual names just because of it has so much international exposure, but overall, very nice looking base. And we know that, robotics and AI and automation, that's the future, right? That's coming quickly. And so, nice way to play it, thematic. The other one is semiconductors. Listen, semis are really, really strong. We all know NVIDIA is leading the group. When we look at what's in there, obviously NVIDIA is 15%, Taiwan Semi is 11%, but you also get exposure to AMD, ASML, Avago, Lam Research, Intel, which we didn't have exposure to Intel, but whatever, AMAT, Micron, Tech, you can see all these names. I don't need to read them all out to you. So it's a cap weighted, right? Cap weighted. So that NVIDIA and Taiwan, being a quarter of the index, is going to kind of bully it around. In top 5 or 6 will help with that as well. But overall, it's a great looking chart. It's a great looking chart, and it is making the right side of I think, a significant base. So we'll see. Right now, this is we kind of my tools here. You kind of say this area right here was the breakout. Did it get ahead of itself? Yeah, I think it did. I would wait to see if it pulls back, just like the index is almost. And if it holds in this 130-ish area, I think that could be a great place to manage risk. If it keeps going higher, I mean, if it pulls back more and starts slicing through, the 50-day moving average, which is my blue line, that would be a problem, right? So, but I think overall SMH looks really good. Okay, let's get into individual names now. This is in no particular order. So just so you know, but it's mostly gotten from my scans and some from a top-down approach, which I add to it. Okay. All right. So let's start with IMGN. So this is a biotech, and the only reason why this is on there is because it has high tight flag potential. Not one that I would plow a lot of money into if you were interested in this one. But if it can move higher from here, I mean, it went up almost 140% in one day, with highest volume ever. That's a big deal, in my opinion. And so obviously this is not me and you buying. This is institutional, sponsorship of this name potential. It may need a little bit more time, but again, high tight flag potential. If you go to the weekly, you can kind of see it. 1, 2, may need one more week, right? Like 3 weeks kind of, in this area, and then pull, but we'll see. Let's keep going. Next up is, okay, ACVA. That's an interesting one. So they do car auctions, right? So if you're in the idea of, hey, there's gonna be a lot of repossessions because the economy isn't strong and people can't afford $1,000 a month car payment, ACVA is one of those, a name that could potentially benefit from that. Now, I'm not the only one that thinks that, right? Because we had this beautiful 20% move up, held the gap nicely, moved sideways, and is trying to move higher as well. So I really like this name. Again, for the idea of maybe a weakening economy, you could play it against that. Would love to see it maybe come back just a little bit and get a better reward to risk entry. Again, so it may not be right this week per se, but it's definitely one I am watching. And if it can, come back and maybe touch that 9-day, that would be really interesting. Something like this, right? That's what I'm looking for. But love this name. It looks really, really good. And this was the stats charts I was telling you about. And you see that they're improving across the board in sales and earnings. All right. Next up is app. App Lovin'. Again, I traded it back in here. and then it kind of just, I mean, just went from 115 to $9. Oh my God. But it's making a comeback, right? Making a comeback, making the bright side of a base. I really wasn't interested in it until this started happening, right? Big volume right there. And then some, really strong buying, way extended, but it's got to be on our watch list, which is what this is. It's a watch list video. Again, my focus list video for the super files that I'll put out later will be hopefully actionable items that are on a good reward to risk basis. And again, no guarantee they're all going to move higher, but we can manage risk. And that's the most important thing that we do. All right, Penumbra. So it's a little bit of a higher price stock, but it has a beautiful flag that it's making right at all-time highs, right? And I believe it's all-time highs. Let's just make sure that's weekly. Yeah, right at all-time highs, right? You can see how it just moved up, flagging out. And so again, this is one of those, again, nice accumulation, nice reward to risk here, especially if you want to play it against this 9-day moving average. You're talking about $4 of risk on a $300 stock. That's, I mean, you can't get better than that, right? It may need a little bit more time again, but it's looking pretty good. Palantir. Now, here's a name I owned a long time ago. Again, it was crazy strong, and then it just brutalized its owners. Absolutely brutalized the owners. But something has changed. And when I say something's changed, look over here. An uptrend, lots of volume. Then it started to really crap out. And look how the volume just kind of tailed off. And then boom, right there, something changed. So that's what we're looking for, right? And that's what really caught my eye. Again, this is kind of a support resistance area. And you see how buyers started to step in here, even though it got rejected. Okay, I'm taking notice. And then come back over here. Buyers got rejected again. But look, we're taking notice. Boom, boom. Now over here, and I'm sure this is probably earnings, it broke out. So is it ready? No, this is extended. But if this will come back to what, $11, right? I love it here in that $11 area, right? So something, it's got to do something like this, come back a little bit, and then go. And it's Palantir, and it's a heavily traded name. I mean, it went through 140 million shares on Friday, right? I mean, this is a ridiculous amount of shares that they're trading through, right? So I would not be shocked if we see some profit taking in this, especially from some of the holders from back here, which was over a year ago. And then see if we can get some support on the moving averages. So I like that name a lot, actually. But it's got to act right. And that's the most important thing. But I like how it popped here, flagged out, and then pop. Nice. Very nice. Flywire. It's one we've been watching in Super Follows for a long time. As in, it's going to be very hard to not acknowledge all this accumulation that's going on in this name, right, as it tries to move higher. Very easy to, again, manage risk as well. I mean, it's at $31. Even if you use this $29, $29.50 or so as your stop, that's a pretty good, pretty good reward to risk, especially if we get some weakness and get even closer on lower volume. That would be even better, right? So that's Flywire. Bausch & Lomb. Bausch & Lomb was a spin-off from, I forgot the name of the pharmaceutical company, but they basically spun off Bausch & Lomb back to its old self again. And again, they do eye drops and eye care and that kind of stuff. And right now we have, just this great 1 year long IPO base. Has not broken out yet. It has to get above, $20 and a quarter or so for this to be interesting, but it's really starting to shape up nice as a pure IPO base. And if it gets above that 20 and a quarter, it'd be an all-time high territory, and we know there's no resistance at all-time highs right above it. So So this is a really interesting one, and it's starting to give a little flag right there, which is kind of nice. You can kind of see it just flagging like that. So again, it may need a little bit more time to finish this flag, but it's a nice looking name. So NXT is a newer name in the solar industry, and so be careful with newer names, of course, right? But we it's got this kind of, again, it's flag E, right? Something like that. It's going to be volatile. You see it's 7% down, is 11% up. That was another almost 7% up again. But it is near all-time highs, and it's looking pretty good. And it's got this kind of symmetrical, triangle-ish look to it. Listen, I don't know which way this is going to break, but it's got a lot of decent accumulation showing up on the charts. If it breaks this downtrend line right here, I think that's a place we can manage risk. Again, it may not do it immediately, and this may need to flag out a little bit more, but NXT looks pretty good, especially a break of this downtrend line. Enable. All right. This is let's go and get this again. Nice IPO base. It's been going on for what, almost 2 years now, right? And now it's finally getting up here again. Little bit stretched to the upside, right? That's what happened. That's what kind of happened the last week or so, is that things have stretched to the upside. So now we're watching on the pullback, how much does it pull back, right? But look at this. Tons of volume coming into this name right over here. And if we scroll into it, right, and just kind of expand this area, we had the pop, then we had the pullback right into the moving averages, and then it went higher again, right? Very nice movement. Again, so now what am I looking for? In this particular name, I would like to see it pull back here and then break out. Again, you have two options here. You could buy the pullback into the moving averages right there, or and again, something like this, I would say like a half position or a smaller position, or maybe even just a pilot or test position, which is for me a few shares, just to keep it on your radar and watch it because you have a couple dollars, at risk. But buy a little something as a pullbacks in the moving average, manage your risk against the moving average, and then if it breaks out, you can then add to it and it lowers your cost basis. Okay. So that's one type of tactical entry that I like to do. I think buying even 5 shares, if you want to watch a name, is an underrated thing to do, but pays. I mean, it just pays because it keeps your focus on a name as opposed to losing it on a watch list, which happens to all of us at times. But yeah, Enable looks pretty good. Next up is EXAS. Again, it was, a lot of these names were high flyers, right? Got demolished, and now we're setting up again. And again, look at all this beautiful, big green bars showing up. Is it perfect? It's not completely perfect, but it did pop higher, held the gap nicely, and it's trying to move now, right? So again, it's a little extended. I want to see this pull back just a little bit, maybe tag the 9-day, and then go. That would be my ideal situation. We don't always get what we want, but that's what I'm looking for in the name. Next up, TGTX. So again, this is another biotech name, and I always, if I play a biotech name, which I don't often, it's going to be on a much smaller size because they are so volatile. But you can see how it was a $58 stock, got demolished, went down to $3, and now it is, just fighting back, right? Again, this is not me and you buying. This is significant buying going on in this. And now we have a nice low volume pullback into moving averages. This is absolutely in a buyable range right here. And you could use that 28.79 as a potential stop right there. And again, risk reward wise, gigantic. It's a beautiful flag. Volume's all right. If it wasn't a biotech, this would be a perfect perfect stock, right? But it is a biotech, so we do have to make sure we position size appropriately. And know your risk. All right, SRAT. This was a brand new one to me. And so let me go to the big chart here. All right, so again, it started at $28, went down to 7, and now it's trying to explode higher. I would have liked this type of pattern more on near all-time highs. But again, we don't always get what we want. But you see the VCP type pattern, right? Higher lows, and it keeps banging on the door. And so I like the reward to risk here, right? If this can move higher, we'll call it above 13 and a quarter, 1350, something like that. I like how this looks. I can even kind of go a little shorter here like this, right? I like how this looks for sure. So what do? They do the analytics and the data behind a lot of the sport betting books. I'm not sure which ones use their service because I don't do that deep of a dive in there, but I did read a little blurb about them. So they do the data and they do a lot of software behind the books, and so that's a pretty cool space to be. And the chart showing it, right? This chart is showing it. So technically, I like it above 13 and a quarter, something like that, right? But it's setting up very nicely. Fluence Energy. So this is what I've been watching for a while. You see it's a newer name. Again, got destroyed, and now it's trying to make its comeback, right? And you see this has an inverse head and shoulder look to it, and just the amount of beautiful volume coming in once again. And again, you see nobody selling, all accumulation. Great looking flag right there. Let me get rid of this blue line because that's, so if there was, one stock that's probably going to make my focus list later, I think Fluence Energy is it, because the reward to risk is just so perfect in this name, right? I mean, it's just so perfect right here. I mean, on the pullback, Thursday and Friday, like nobody's selling, right? Like this is like, I mean, what a beautiful look to this, right? And if you're wrong, $20.50 is your stop. So you're talking about, $1.30, right? 4 or 5% risk on this particular name. So again, looks amazing. I'd probably want to put my alert on the trend line, and I probably would buy it upon breakout of that trend line. But again, Fluence Energy, it looks, again, this the volume profile here, the technical setup, you can almost call this, even a double bottom look. There's a lot going on here that looks really nice. So Frog, this is JFrog, and they're some sort of software company, and you can see again, it came out, hit $100 almost, and then got destroyed, and now it is trying to make a comeback. And so I'm going to extend this a little bit longer. And so I do like that this gigantic volume bar here tells me something has changed in this particular name. And even though it's not set up quite bullishly yet, look how it's going sideways right at the 200-day moving average, which is exactly the same spot as the 9-day. And we have just a sideways tight action right here. That's something else that catches my eye, right? So that's important. And even if we just get a movement right to here, you could potentially get a 20% gain in this name if it does come and retest this area. And 20% is pretty darn good, right? I'll take 20% as much as I can. So I love the reward to risk here. It's right at the 200-day, 9 days right there. If it breaks out above the $23 or so, I think it's maybe good until 27, and that's a place where I would definitely be taking at least partial profits, if not more. But this is JFrog, FROG is the ticker. All right, PRTA. Again, I believe they are a biotech company. So I had three biotechs in here, really. Um, and so this is just one of them. Again, if I was interested in this one to buy, I'd keep my position size small, but it's trying to get to all-time highs, and it has a nice flag, just like that JFrog flag, right? In a lot of ways, right on the 9-day, riding it. And if it breaks this trend line, this has potential power behind it, right? Because this can move 27, 30, 40% pretty quick. So again, but because it's biotech, it could also go down 27% pretty quick. So again, if you like that type of risk, and some people do, right? Sometimes if it's some people's personality, then I would, again, just position size accordingly. But this one looks really nice if it could break that downtrend line. All right. Next up is Airy. This is a name I was in a while back. I think it was in here somewhere. But if you notice, I don't have a lot of SPACs, right? That were originally SPACs. I'm not. Most of those companies are going to end up going away. These came on the market and as companies, right? They didn't have to merge with anybody to come on the market. So this Airy, they're a solar company, and they've had an issue, right? They've been basing for a while. They could probably pull this, and you see how support resistance. This is polarity, and it's a beautiful thing. You just very, very clean levels. And let's zoom into this side of the base, because this is the side I'm really interested in. And you could see that there's decent accumulation, and look at the down volume. And sometimes that's what catches my eye more than the up volume, right? To me, this is nobody selling, very little selling in here. And then you have the big up, boom. And then you have the sideways movement, right? Nobody wants to sell. And we're starting to ramp up a little bit. I think it still needs to break out. And I think I would not be shocked if this pulls back a little bit, right? That would be totally within character of this name. Where it holds would be interesting. Again, against the moving averages, but it is starting to get bullshit aligned. Look at that 50-day trying to curve back up, right? So I definitely think we can see how it holds against, $20, 21.75, somewhere around there, right? And then if it could break out, that would be a nice looking chart right there, right? So Airy, definitely keep your eye on that one. Let's see what's next. LTH. So LTH which is Lifetime Group Holdings. From what I understand, they do assisted living, and basically the boomer population is starting to get real old at this point, right? My parents, they're in their 70s and 80s, and assisted living is going to be in their future at some point, right? For some of them, for a lot of them. So you see how this one, again, made its kind of base, kind of came up here near this all-time highs, pulled back some, but now it's kind of just holding its own. And I can definitely see how you could call this a cup and handle, right? Here's your cup, and then there's your handle right there, right? So cup and handle, look to it, holding this, 1933. So I think LTH is an actionable name, right? Looks real good there. And your reward to risk, well, if it takes out, whether you use a 23-day, you may use the low of this day, right? That wouldn't be a bad spot either. If you have a longer term, which I in this name, I would say if it breaks, 1880, I would want to be out. But you use the 50-day as well. All right. It wouldn't be, obnoxious to use a 50-day. Again, depends on your position size and the risk you want to put on. For me at this point, I would say I think 1880 or the low of this day is where I'd want to be. But if you look at it on the weekly chart, right? So on a weekly chart, it's a very nice looking cup and handle. You see the big volume up on the weekly, and you see how it's lower volume on the pullback, right? Good update right there. And yeah, and look at this. So the 9-week moving average is around 1872, which is kind of neat too, right? That's not bad. All right. So that's a good looking name right there. Lifetime Holding Group, LTH. All right. Let's keep going. Vontaire, VNT. Nice looking base. There's your breakout right there. It's kind of extended. So what I would love to see coming is a retest of the breakout, a hold there, then a move higher. So that would probably mean around $28 or so, right? If this $28 area holds, that'd be a great spot. And then you could easily manage risk against this purple area, 23-day moving average, or even potentially the 50-day, which you can see it likes to come back to every so often. So it comes back, even 27.50 to where the 50-day may be over the next few days or so, and then starts to move higher and bounces again. Well, that would be completely within its character. It hold this particular area. Remember, we can make this a little bit bigger if we needed to, right? It doesn't mean it has to be this exact spot. This is an area. And if it comes back, it maybe tags the 50-day or gets close to it, voila, you have a very low risk, high reward entry. GLB, you can see it has earnings again. Usually, if it's got a flag here, Deep View is pretty good about tagging earnings dates are coming up within 2 weeks or so. This is Monday, right? So let's see what happens on Monday with this name. It's already extended in anticipation of earnings. But overall, I'd love to see it kind of pull back and then break out in general. We'll see what happens. Again, earnings coming up, but it is a big ramp up in earnings. I don't know if they're front running it. I don't know if this is going to be buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing, but we'll see what happens. That's Global E. All right, Confluent, CFLT. One I've been watching for a long time. Again, it kind of came all the way back down, and now it's trying to base out here. Some nice accumulation going in. Hasn't broken out yet, so it's just a watch list name. But I love the way this looks. Wouldn't be shocked if we see it come back just a little bit and then break out. Again, that's my bread and butter at this point. I love the way this looks. It's doing everything right. Nice accumulation. So keep an eye on it. Fortinet, this one is near all-time highs, right? Beautiful, near all-time highs. It may need a little bit more time, but it's not doing anything wrong. It's just kind of sliding forward, right? Kind of just crawling up here. And we'll watch it, right? If it can break out, again, it's a place we can manage risk, right? Just $70.50, somewhere around there. IAS, Integral Ad Sciences. Looking into this area, you see how it kind of broke out, came back. Buyers kind of showed up here, right? And then it's moving higher here. So again, you can decide if this is a name that you like, you can play it against. I think the 50-day, so a smaller position size, and maybe play against a 50-day in case it pulls back again. If there's a name you like, but it's nice little accumulation, a lot of interest in this name. Mu. This is one of the ones we saw, a semiconductor name, and it kind of broke out of this base. And again, you can see how big green sticks and lower selling volume, right? All in here, right? So this is where, if you're watching it, it really should hit the radar right here. And Mu, it did break out. It got extended. If we get that early week pullback, a pullback into, something like that, right? $65-ish area would be a great spot for a pullback. When the averages catch up and we can manage risk there. And again, that would be a strong looking name right there. MU. Sprinkler, CXM. So again, I like to show the whole chart if it's a newer name, which it is. It's kind of trying to make this base, the right side of this base. A lot of good volume showing up here off of this probably earnings. Came back and kind of crapped out, but now it's making the turn back again, right? And when we zoom into it, it's now getting aligned bullishly. with all of its moving averages, and I think it could at least get to 1320. I don't know what that would be. Let's see. All right, so that's only 6%, right? Um, but but this 1320 is probably a place we can manage risk against as well, right? If it gets above it, and how it does it is something interesting. Again, a lot of nice volume in here, so it's got to be on our radar, at least a watch list. All right, Elf. Elf has earnings coming up May 24th, it looks like. Again, don't trust any dates anywhere except for the website of the company itself, but has a nice flag right into the moving averages. It is a little bit long in the tooth, right? It went from $20 to $90 pretty quickly in 1 year, basically. That's pretty quick to go up 350, 360%. But it's got a nice little flag. I'd probably wait for earnings, but this looks really interesting. It may get up to the 100 mark on earnings. We'll see. That's a psychological level. Almost done here, guys. Thanks for sticking with me on this. DraftKings, again, a beautiful looking flag right into moving averages, starting to move higher. You see nobody is selling this. The flag is basically right there, right? And it broke out. We can manage risk easily against this 2250 mark, right? That's a decent amount. It may pull back some. I'm not convinced that this flag is done or this consolidation is done yet. But if we could get a closer to that 23-day, I think that would be a really nice spot, right? If we get pulled back and we get a hold and we get, remember, it kind of filled the gap already and then moved higher. So it's a nice look to it. I think we have one more here. Freshworks is the last one on this trip through my watch list. Again, it's trying to make this base. You see how it went from $50 to $10, the 80% decline. Don't love some of this volume, so not my favorite, but it's a watch list name. It may do good, it may not do good. I'm not going to be plowing into this name anytime soon, but we have a very defined risk at the 17-ish area, and it has some strength here, so that does make it interesting to me. Okay. So there you go. I gave you 2 ETFs and a whole bunch of names. I didn't even count how many. We went through a lot. There's some of these that look fantastic and are ready to work next week. Some of them that we said if we get that pullback next week, what we're looking for in order to get bullish on the names. And there's some just straight up watch list names on here, right? Thanks for going through this journey with me. If you're interested, don't forget, check me out on Twitter at AlphaCharts365. I'm always adding lots of for super follows, all kinds of information all week long. Hope y'all consider joining up. Thank y'all very much. I'll leave a link down below for that also in the description of the video. If you're a super follow, thank you all for being super follows. I'll have the focus list video out in a little bit, and hope y'all are doing well. Thanks. Bye.